gentlemen, in this video I'm going to discuss the topic of why Dior as a fragrance brand will never be the same again as long as Francis Kurkdjian is the creative director of Perfume. If that sounds interesting, then stick around and let's not waste any more time and let's begin this discussion. So if you've been living under a rock, Francis Kurkdjian overtook the position as creative director of Perfume at Dior back in 2021 from the legendary perfumer François Demachy, and since then Dior as a fragrance brand has not been the same because their perfume releases have either been questionable, reviewed with mixed comments, and for some people outright failures. But let's start from the beginning. This is not Francis Kurkdjian's first time working with Dior, but it might be the most significant time because the very first fragrance that he released that really mixed the waters was this one, Dior Dioriviera. Dior Dioriviera was the first fragrance under Francis Kurkdjian's time as creative director that really got people mixed and was thinking, why is he releasing this fragrance? Dior Dioriviera is this very fresh, clean, soft fragrance with some green fig touches. I think it is super comfortable, very light, very soft, and very well fitted into La Collection Privée, which both has these very strong, dense, amber fragrances, but also fresh fragrances. And I think Dioriviera fits into that category of fragrances, these very light, soft, floral, fresh fragrances with some contrast hidden in there. But this fragrance got a lot of mixed reviews, and for some people it is an outright failure. You need to think about this way. Francis Kurkdjian is well renowned for his perfumery because he made fragrances like Le Mal for Jean-Paul Gaultier, Coco Mademoiselle for Chanel, Elizabeth Arden Green Tea, his brand Maison Francis Kurkdjian, which I work for, so technically Francis Kurkdjian is my boss, and I could go on. So because such a huge name in the fragrance industry, as such a well-renowned perfumer is working for such a prestigious and well-loved brand as Dior, this as a fragrance release for a lot of people was an outright failure. The next year he released New Look. New Look already was a fragrance in the Dior fragrance portfolio in La Collection Privée, but to celebrate his time as creative director, he wanted to embrace the new look of Dior as a fashion brand and make that into a fragrance of the modern times with Francis being in charge. So that's why he rebranded and remade Dior New Look. And this is so much a Francis Kurkdjian release because this smells like some of his other work, specifically for his own brand 724, but in a slightly different direction. New Look is this very aldehydic, fresh, soft, almost laundry-like scent with an ambery resinous touch to it. Very long-lasting, very abrasive, and very divisive. I am one of those people who actually really like New Look, and I reviewed it when it came out and gave it a very solid rating because I really enjoyed it. I really like this scent profile, but I definitely understand why people do not like it because it is very divisive and certainly not for everyone. Again, another fragrance from Francis that has gotten mixed reviews and for some people is an outright failure once again. And in the same year of 2024, Francis released his most controversial fragrance for Dior as of that time, Dior Sauvage Eau Forte. Dior Sauvage Eau Forte is a water-based take on Dior Sauvage, and there's a specific reason why he made that fragrance. A lot of other fragrance brands are starting to make their own water-based fragrance to be more sustainable, alcohol-free, and make a fragrance choice for some people who might not like alcohol in their perfumes for one reason or another. And this has been a trend in the fragrance industry for the last couple of years. So that's why Dior as a brand wanted Francis to make this move move into the industry and therefore create Sauvage, their most sold fragrance to date and one of the most sold fragrances of all time, into a water-based fragrance. And I can tell you one thing, I do not like Sauvage or Forte. First of all, I do not like the sensation of getting a white mixture of perfume oil and water onto my skin, which looks very questionable but also feels like you're spraying lotion on yourself instead of actual perfume. And I don't think it resembles the smell of Sauvage as much as the other fragrances. It's just a very musky, clean lavender scent, which I'm not really a fan of. That's why I haven't reviewed it yet, because I think it's not really the best thing in the world in my opinion. But that fragrance was so controversial because people were starting to think, if they didn't think that already, what is Francis actually doing at Dior? Does he even get to say a word of what he wants to release, or is Dior telling him what to do and do his best with that brief? As being creative director, you of course are in charge of doing what you need to do for the brand. You decide what direction to take the brand into, but shareholders, the CEO, and people at the marketing team also have some things to say to you and tell you what direction you might want to go into, because Dior as a brand have things that they need to uphold to their investors, shareholders, hence why they need to perhaps follow trends, do some things that might be more mainstream and not as artisanal and creative, but still be in the mainstream limelight to get some of this revenue share in the fragrance industry. So that's why the previously named fragrances have been made perhaps now in 2025, and Francis Kurkdjian has been very much under fire by the fragrance community for some specific reasons. In the start of the year, he released Bois Talisman, which is this very ambery, woody, smoky vanilla fragrance in the La Collection Privée line. I haven't reviewed it yet, but I have gotten to try it and I really enjoy it. It fits very well into La Collection Privée, but a lot of people think it is mediocre and might remind them of Maison Margiela by the fireplace. So a lot of people are outraged by the lack of creativity from Dior as a fragrance brand. Also because at the same time of releasing this fragrance, Dior has made some changes to the bottles of La Collection Privée. Instead of making 40 ml, 125 ml and 250 ml, they made 50, 100 and 200 ml, but the prices have stayed the same, so you're getting less ml for the bigger bottles but paying the same price. So of course a lot of people got outraged by the sheer greed by the Dior brand for making this adjustment. But the most controversial thing that Francis has done by far is taking something that the fragrance community truly loved, Dior Homme Parfum. Dior Homme Parfum is one of the most loved fragrances from Dior by the fragrance community because it is a true masterpiece. I truly love it and I've talked about it many times. You can check my video up here in the corner. But Francis relaunched it, discontinued the old one and relaunched it to Dior Homme Parfum 2025. This was, for some people, the biggest mistake that Francis has done so far. Don't get me wrong, Dior Homme Parfum 2025 is a very good smelling fragrance. It is a musky, ambery, woody, floral iris scent that has this powdery sensation, but it is not anywhere near the same fragrance and not anywhere near the same quality, you might say, for the price that you're paying. And why would you discontinue one of the most beloved fragrances by your fan base and completely replace with something completely different and something that is not well received by the community and your customer base? But there's a very good reason for it. The Dior Homme line, when released back in the early 2000s, was meant to resemble the modern man and how Dior wanted the modern man to smell. They wanted the modern man to smell very sophisticated, but at the same time flamboyant, different, unique, and to smell like something that they haven't smelled before. Hence the introduction of iris that wasn't really used in men's perfumery up until then. But as I told you previously, shareholders, investors, they want to see something that brings in the money, and I can imagine that they didn't see that the old Dior Homme line did the same as it did back when it released. Hence why we've seen changes like Dior Homme 2020, Dior Homme Parfum 2025 being more commercial, mainstream, and more easier to wear, because the vision of the modern man has changed. The modern man nowadays, by Dior standards, I can believe, is meant to smell more safe, more versatile, more appealing, and not as abrasive as the old time sakes Dior Homme line was meant to smell. So of course the changes has been made to not only match the trends and the market in 2025 and onwards, but to be more appealing for the modern crowd. I think it is a real shame, but you need to think about it this way. Money comes first for such a huge company like Dior and of course the LVMH group. So of course these changes needed to be made by Dior, as at least in their opinion. Hence why the Dior Homme line will not be the same again anytime soon, in my opinion. And the only way Dior can come back to the community and to apologize, if you want to say it that way, is either by replacing the creative director, which I don't see anytime soon, because in my experience, Francis Kurkdjian, even though very controversial, is still doing a very good job as creative director. He creates what the brand wants, but to the community standards. These are not very creative, interesting, idea sparking, or in any way imaginative, but they are up to date and up to image for what the Dior brand wants. If Dior wants to make a change and go back to the way things were, you need to replace the creative director, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And Dior will need to keep the things that the community loves the most. But with that said, you can truly see that the direction Dior is going is not going to change anytime soon, because when you look at the commercial material of Francis talking about the new releases for Dior, he is proud of what he's making. He likes to create the things that he does, or at least the marketing material makes it look that way.
C'est mon arrivée chez Dior presque.
And I don't think it is going to change anytime soon, but I think the best thing that Dior can do is to bring back the original Dior Homme Parfum as Dior Homme Parfum Original, as they did with Dior Homme Original when they made Dior Homme 2020. So what do you guys think? What do you think of Dior's current events? What do you think of Francis Kurkdjian as creative director of perfume for Dior? Do you think he, as a creative director, has been a total failure? Do you think he's doing great things at Dior? I am very intrigued to see what you think down the comment section below. But before I leave you, I think he's doing a great job, but controversial things are going to be controversial for a reason. Changing fragrances, rebranding fragrances, discontinuing some of the most beloved fragrances are going to be a hellfire of mixed comments from the community, the customers, and people around you. So of course he is under a lot of stress, but that is what a leader does. He does what he thinks is the best for the brand, for the company, and for the customers. But he truly knows that. He has been a part of his own brand since 2009, so he knows what he's doing. People that buy his fragrances know the style of his perfumery. So Francis knows what he's doing. He knows what is going to happen. And I like to say that I'm aware of that. He knows that the fragrances he releases are going to get mixed comments, but he knows that he is doing his best work for Dior based on the things that Dior wants him to do. Gentlemen, this was my comment and opinions about the current situation at Dior. Do you think Dior is doing a good job? Do you think they have completely lost the plot? Let me know down the comment section below what you think about the situation down in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this discussion video about Dior, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the Men's Improvement YouTube channel for more more videos about fragrances, grooming, style, fashion, skincare, fitness, watches, everything that will make you gentlemen the best possible versions of yourselves. The last few things I want to ask you gentlemen is to smile more because it's free, and I want you to watch these two videos right here. This one here below is going to be my latest upload, whereas this one up here is going to be a video that the YouTube algorithm thinks you will enjoy.